Hello, guys, and welcome to another Christmas Universe as we're here to look at another Top of the Pops Christmas special from the past. 1986, we're now focusing on. Yeah, 1986 Christmas special of Top of the Pops. I mean, funny enough, this special has been repeated for the last 2 years, or the last 3 years, I guess you could say, for BBC4. It might get repeated again, we'll see. Maybe. We're not too sure on that. Nevertheless, the Top of the Pops 1986, I'm sure you can watch it on YouTube as well. Yeah, I'm sure there's a way to watch it because, there's definitely ways to watch it. Absolutely. So, yeah, 1986 Top of the Pops Christmas special. We might as well get straight to it, shall we? So, yeah, this is the big day itself, the big day episode, which had four presenters: Simon Bates, Gary Davis, Jeanette Long, and Pete Powell. And Pete Powell obviously been quite a bit of a presenter since, I believe he's been a presenter since the end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s. So he's been a presenter for a few good years. And then Gary Davis was essentially the newbie in Top of the Pops, along with, and then Simon Bate had been there for a little while at the start of for like the last 2 years or so. So he was passing the torch to him essentially for new presenters to take over. Christmas Day 1986. How did Top of the Pops celebrate this Christmas special for that particular year? They started things off with Billy Ocean. When the going gets tough, the tough gets going. Obviously, being, of course, most of you are going to say, isn't that a Boyzone track? Yes, technically, Billy Ocean sang it first, and then Boyzone sang it later for comic relief. Just saying, it was a Boyzone thing at the end of the 90s. Still a few years yet, Boyzone would eventually. But either way, this was the original, technically the original. And then we have the Commodores with "Don't Leave Me This Way." They were a popular men duo for the year. Obviously, the Commandos obviously had quite a good year in 1986, so it makes. And also, it was also interesting because the music video parts, they were playing quite a lot of music videos for some of the tracks as well. So they kind of gave us like half of the music videos during the show, which was really cool. That we got to see a glimpse of the music videos at the time from the times, which is great. But yeah, so that was the second performance highlighted, and then we have Aha Shine, Sun Always Shines on TV, which is one of Aha's hits at the time. And then we have, of course, Final Countdown, or should I say, it's the final countdown. We had to get it right, obviously, but yeah. So yeah, the final countdown with Europe. Obviously a big rock tune of 1986. Obviously a big hit for them, but a big hit for the rock scene. Of course, they were going to be huge of 1986, and also it just made rock music. Even what can I say? Like music would eventually take over as the next 2 decades shows following this performance, obviously. And then we have performance on Top of the Pops. Quite a bizarre performance from the Doctor and the Medics with their take of who were the original people who sang Spirit in the Sky before Gareth Gates did it for comic relief in 2000. And yes, that was eventually would be his gig. Obviously, we're talking about Gareth Gates, the one who featured in Popeye in the early noughties. But yeah, so Doctor and the Medics, Spirit in the Sky, very bizarre performance, but it was great to hear Spirit in the Sky. And then we come to Cliff Richard's tune of the year, which was also the comic relief tune of 1986, which was Cliff Richard's take with the Young One remaking one of his classic tunes, Living Doll, which is funny because you could actually, during the music video showing, you could actually hear the audience singing Living Dolls, which is kind of, I think it was really nice to hear the audience singing the song whilst the video was playing. Really cool that they did that. But yeah, that was the comic relief tune of 1986 that was played off. And then eventually we come to the splitting image hit at the time called the Chicken Song. Apparently they decided to make a chicken song in 1986. Because of how popular the show was on ITV, because yes, it was an ITV show, they decided to, make a song called the Chicken Song, the charts apparently, or at least be in the top. So yeah, apparently did very well at the time. So yeah, I was quite baffled that he did very well. And then we have Boris Gardner with his song "I Want to Wake Up with You." This was a romantic song of that year, or at least one of the romantic songs that year. And then we have Diana Ross, Chain Reaction. Obviously, Diana Ross. This was at the time when she was obviously she's grown up a bit since her 60s days when she was with the Supreme, so she's obviously on her solo career, and she was it was getting close to her, she was getting close to coming close to that time where she would start thinking about starting, wanting to focus on being more of a family person than a stage, pretty much, when she was starting to tone down on the music scene a bit and focus on family side of Diana Ross, even though she was still making music, of course, but she was build a family at the same time. Then we have Berlin with the tune from the original Top Gun movie, Take My Breath Away. Obviously a big tune from Top Gun, and obviously it has scenes of Top Gun in the music video, because you could very much tell that this was taken from the very first Top, when Tom Cruise was introducing us to his Top Gun character, which would eventually return years later with Top Gun Maverick for a sequel. Who would ever thought we would ever get a sequel in the 2020s? Who would ever thought that would have happened? But there you go, it happened. And then, of course, we come to Simply Red's debut to the music scene, holding back the years, when we had Simply Red finally debut on Top of the Pops. So this was their first big hit, which first of many, because of course there was many more to come from Simply Red following this performance, but obviously this was just the beginning. And then we have Nick Berry with Every Loser Wins, which is another romantic love song of that year. And then we have Valken Rock Me Aldavium. Yeah, very not too sure about this one, a bit unusual. And then we come to George Michael, who obviously at the time he was also doing Wham stuff as well. It's a bit of an unusual year for George Michael this particular year, because I mean the year before he was doing a lot of stuff with Wham, and then eventually we started with, I think there's obviously, you could say this was pretty much the beginning of his transition away, finally embracing his solo career, because obviously a lot of people commented how good he was as a solo writer, writing music solely. So this eventually inspired George Michael to want to be solo in the music industry, and eventually this has led to the Wham split up and the beginning of George Michael's solo career for the next few years. And A Different Corner was obviously a love song that, well, I wouldn't say a love song. It's more of about relationships breaking down, pretty much, if you'll get what I'm saying. But it's either way, it was a very powerful song from George Michael. I guess you could say his first proper solo career, a solo song after his collabs that he did the year before, because he did do a few collabs in 95 and 94, so kind of did a few collabs, and he also did one solo hit in 1984, which was a Playlist Whisper, which was his first proper solo hit. This was his second one. And then we got West End Girls, Pet Shop Boys. This was obviously Pet Shop Boys' debut year. West End Girls, that was a big hit for them, #1 hit when they first. And then we have a double dose of Madonna, starting with True Blue, first of her big hits that year. And then, of course, the other one that everyone, I'm sure, talks about, Papa Don't Preach, still gets love to this day. And funny enough, Madonna was actually celebrating her birthday in August. So, yeah, she was celebrating one of her birthdays back in August, and now we're close to the end of the year. Yeah, she's just living a time away from the music scene, even though I'm sure people would love to see her return to the music scene at some point. But I think she's kind of settling down from it all now. And then we have Chris de Burgh, Lady in Red. This was his big hit of the year. Obviously, Chris de Burgh was obviously the one who sang the A Spaceman Came Traveling, which was his, I guess you could say, his wintry tune, even though it's not technically Christmassy, but it still counts as a Christmas hit these days. And then we have House Martin, Caravans of Love, which was the previous #1 before Christmas. And then eventually it transitioned. Well, before we go to the Christmas songs, it's the Caravans of Love. Stand up. Stand up, stand. Yeah. Either way, great tune. And also Fatboy Slim was a part of the group as well. This was obviously Fatboy Slim got his very first #1 as part of the group before he eventually became the DJ that he is. The Christmas #1 of that year, which just so happened. Now, you would think that the Christmas #1 that year would be a song that was big in 1986, right? You would think, okay, it's going to be a song massive in 1986. Just so happens it wasn't. It happened to be a 60s hit from Jackie Wilson, I'll probably butcher the pronunciation, but yeah, a Jackie Wilson song got to #1, a song from the 60s to Christmas #1 in 1986. Who would ever, miracles could happen at Christmas, right? So yeah, Jackie Wilson finally took on the Christmas number one 1986, and that was his number one the year. So yeah, he got the Christmas number one that year. Pretty crazy. But he wasn't the one closing the show off because obviously it was a music video and it was a very short one. So it wouldn't make sense for him to close the show. So instead, because of all the talk about George Michael leaving, they decided to wrap things up by showing Wham's very last music video together, Edge of Heaven, the last ever song they did together before George Michael finally moved away, focused on his solo career years later for the next few years. This was the last ever music video they shot together, showing highlights of their previous music videos behind, where you got to see the Last Christmas and bits of the Tropicana scenes and a bit of Wild Boys and a bit of other pieces of their music videos that was shown behind the scenes to sort of celebrate the success that Wham has had in the music industry, which is really lovely that they did that. And it was kind of like, I guess you could say, their goodbye to the audience before before George Michael became solo for the years to come. And and obviously he had many successful hits following this Christmas. But of course, like I said, at least another success story for Wham was the fact that they got the Christmas number one last year with Last Christmas, so they could add that to their success story years later after they split it up. But there you go. That is 1986, everybody. That is what 1986 Christmas was all. Lots of crazy, lots of wild stuff going on, and I'm sure it will be remembered for years. So yeah, if you have any memories of 1986, leave them in the comment section below. There'll be a link in the description if you want to see the episode in full to relive those memories. And I'll see you all for some more reviews on the Christmas universe. See you then.
Christmas. Oh, I can't wait to see those faces.